Hi guys, how are y'all doing? It's September 1st. Today we're going to talk about section 1-4, which is solving absolute value equations. We're going to be working on this for a couple of days, so therefore I put day 1. Hopefully by the end of today, you'll be able to solve absolute value equations by taking 2 cases. You'll know what that means in just a bit. So when we talk about absolute value, you have to realize what that means. And based on the video that you should have watched right before this, you should have a general idea that it's the distance from 0 on a number line. So what we're going to do is talk about how to solve absolute value expressions or evaluate an expression. Anytime it says evaluate, that basically means you're plugging something in. So it says evaluate 8 minus the absolute value of 2n plus 5 if n equals -7. What that means is we're going to use something called substitution. We're going to substitute anywhere we see an n, we're going to put -7 because n is equal to -7. So I'm going to replace this n right here with -7. Anytime you plug something in, basically from here on out, I want you to use parentheses for that. The 8 minus the absolute value of 2 times n, which is -7, plus 5. So let's basically use our order of operations to figure out what this would be. We're going to do multiplication first, and it's inside the brackets, which in this case we would also call, consider that as my parentheses. So 2 times -7 is -14. So 8 minus the absolute value of -14 plus 5. Let's go ahead and add that together. -14 plus 5 is -9. But what's the absolute value of -9? Well, that's +9. So really I have 8 minus 9 because that minus is on the outside. 8 minus 9 is -1. So if n equals -7, our answer would be -1 for this evaluation. So let's go ahead and move on and talk about solving some absolute value equations. So what you already discovered is that absolute value could have 2 possible answers. So what we're going to talk about is case 1 and case 2. Case 1 is what I'd call the positive case. Case 1 is the positive case, and case 2 is the negative case. So what I do on these 2 cases is I take this number after I realize that my absolute value is isolated. I take that number on the opposite side of the equal sign, and I have 2 versions of it. I have x equals +9 for case 1, and for case 2 I would have x equals -9. Think about it. If I plug in 9 right here, the absolute value of 9 is 9, and the absolute value of -9 is also 9. So whenever you work absolute value, most of the time you will have 2 solutions. In order to do that, notice what we had here. Our absolute value was already isolated. On this second problem, problem B, absolute value is being added by 3. So we need to isolate the absolute value first. The inverse of adding 3 is to subtract 3. So I have the absolute value of x equals, that's canceled, so 9 minus 3 is 6. Case 1 and case 2. For case 1, the positive case, we're going to say x is equal to 6. For case 2, we're going to say x is equal to -6. If you want to plug it in and check, you can. The absolute value of 6 is 6 plus 3 is 9. The absolute value of -6 is 6 plus 3 is 9. So if you want to check if your answer is right, just plug it in. So let's look at letter C. On this one, the absolute value is already isolated, so let's see how that works out. So since it's already isolated, I'm going to start with my 2 cases, case 1 and case 2. So I'm going to go ahead and get rid of the absolute value symbols. I'm going to just have x plus 2 equals what? This is my positive case, so it's equal to +6. For case 2, that's my negative case. So I'm going to have x plus 2 equals -6. Notice on this left-hand side, whatever was in the absolute value, I didn't change that part. I only changed the right-hand side of the equals. I'm going to solve each of these cases. So subtract 2 and I get 4. Subtract 2 and I get -8. So let's think about it. Plug it in. 4 plus 2 is 6. The absolute value of 6 is 6. -8 plus 2 is -6. The absolute value of -6 is 6. That's why we get two answers. Let's continue. Solving absolute value equations. So looking at these two, they're very similar to problem C. So I noticed that my absolute values, they're already isolated. So that makes us good to go. We can go ahead and start with our case 1 and case 2. For case 1, my positive case, I clear the brackets and I have x plus 12 equals +9. For case 2, I have x plus 12 equals -9. Notice that right-hand side becomes negative. Let's go ahead and solve both cases. So x equals -3. And I'm going to subtract 12 again because that's the inverse operation. And that's going to give me -21. Again, plug it in, check it, see if it makes sense. If it does, you're good to go. Again, here we have our problems already isolated, so let's go ahead and take our two cases. For case 1, we're going to have x minus 4 equals +2. For case 2, we're going to have x minus 4 equals -2. Solve them both. Add 4 to both sides. So I get 6. Add 4 to both sides. And I get 2. You can plug it back in and check. 6 minus 4 is 2. The absolute value of 2 is 2. 2 minus 4 is -2. The absolute value of -2 is +2. Therefore, we have our answers. All right, that's the end of the lesson. Enjoy your day.